Hey Deep Chatters, I'm Leah Morris here with my co-host Jennifer Butler, and this is Deep Chats Podcast, where we have raw discussions about real life. Each week you can expect unfiltered, no BS conversations from the heart about topics that actually might matter to you. We're just a couple of relationship coaches who want to cut through the small talk and dive deeper. So thanks for joining us on this journey, and be sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode.
Our guest today is Wendy Sterling, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her before we start. She is a divorce recovery specialist, writer, author, and speaker who is the founder of The Divorce Rehab. She helps divorced women recover from their divorce by finding their true identity and voice, by ending their pity party, mourning the loss of their marriage to create a new, better life that they design. Prior to becoming a certified life coach, Wendy established her 18-year career as a top-level advertising sales exec in the digital space at the world's most progressive social and lifestyle website brands. After learning of her own unexpected divorce and finding the world of coaching, she realized she could combine her 20 years of experience in corporate America as a leader with this new coaching methodology and make a profound impact on the world. And that profound impact is no joke. That is what we're going to be talking about today. She is honestly one of the most inspiring people that I have ever come across. And so Leah and I wanted to have this really inspired conversation about how to actually take action, how to really put into action, put into your life your dreams, the things you say you want to do, the things you know you can do. Wendy is living it. So thank you so much for being here. And I know I can't wait to learn from you. Leah can't wait to learn from you. And I know our guests as well. So welcome.
Thank you. My goodness. You make me a little teary-eyed, but I'm so honored to be here with the two of you. And, thank you for the kind words. It really means a lot. I'm really looking forward to diving in with you guys today.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I can't wait to learn. I want all your secrets. So tell us, I guess, I kind of shared a little bit about who you are in your bio and stuff, but I guess just tell us a little bit more on a personable level, like who you are and what your deal is.
Sure. No, I'm happy to. And I'm happy to tell my story, which honestly is, what has propelled me into the place that I'm at. So, my whole mission is to really change the conversation around divorce and really to use it as an empowering experience, because that is what I have done. Because I believe that divorce can be an empowering experience that we go through to find our true identity and voice, to design a life that we love, instead of feeling stuck in the life that we have or that we think we're only entitled to. And I often, as you know, I often work with women who have lost their voice, who have lost their identity, who have so many noises in their head, creating self-doubt, limiting beliefs. And it's stopping them in their tracks from really being able to fully live and step into their next chapter. And that was very much me about 4 years ago. So I will never forget the day that I was driving home in the car with my husband at the time, and we were coming home from a couple's night out, and we were driving through the canyon. I live in Los Angeles, and it was really late at night, and all of a sudden his cell phone rang, and it was a female colleague of his. And it seemed really strange to me why this woman was calling so late. And she didn't just call once, she called 5 times. And I got a punch in my gut, like I've never felt. And my worst dream, my worst nightmare was coming true. And that night I realized that something felt off, something was weird. And it was probably the first time that I truly listened to and acted on my intuition. And it forever changed my life moving forward. I was knocked to the ground. The foundation of my life was gone. He and I separated, and I remember looking at him and saying, I want a divorce. I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. And I remember walking out after telling him that and looking at myself in the mirror and going, I don't even know who the hell I am anymore. And it scared me because I realized in that moment that I had completely lost myself in my marriage. I didn't know who I was. I knew who I was in corporate America, but I didn't know who I was outside of mom, outside of wife, and I didn't know who Wendy was. And it was the most eye-opening experience I've ever had. And I knew that I had to get myself back in some way. And so I was in therapy, I was reading self-help books, I was listening to podcasts, but nothing was propelling me forward. And the universe works magically, as you guys know. And lo and behold, one day on Facebook, I saw a post from actually a former coworker of my ex-husband's who had become a career transition coach and left her law practice. And I called her, and I knew that coaching, because of our conversation, was just something inside of me. I keep getting goosebumps as I'm telling this story too, which is really interesting. Something inside of me said that this was what I needed to really help myself move into this next chapter. I had a really successful corporate career. I was a leader. I was a mentor, 6-figure paycheck. Like I had the perfect job on paper, but I was miserable. And so as soon as I signed up for this course, everything changed for me. In a matter of 2.5 days, I moved forward more so than I had even the year before that. And I knew that there was something special. And so I continued with the courses. I continued with the certification process while still in corporate America. And within a year, I had gotten to the other side of my divorce. So what I did was I basically married the methodology of the coaching program that I studied with my own recovery process and created my 5-step program called Divorce Rehab, which I invite people into, and I walk them through essentially the exact same steps that helped get me through to the other side in less than a year. And I left corporate America. I realized that within the organization, I was an entrepreneur. I was hired to launch regions for companies that had a presence elsewhere, but didn't on the West Coast. And so that was really what I had been doing all along. And while I was terrified, something inside of me just said, like, you've got to be the voice to these women. You've got to be the example of what's possible. And it was in that moment that I realized that my divorce was happening for me, not to me. And my divorce was the best gift that I gave myself because it allowed me to step into what I knew was my next chapter, which was to help other people going through what I went through to see what's possible on the other side. And within 1.5 years, I've created an incredible business that I get up every day excited and inspired and, just wanting to help the world. And so, it's really awesome because I help people get to the other side and heal from divorce. That's what I get to do. And, really empowering them to find their voice and identity is who I am. I embody that. I am the example of that. And it is a gift. And I also say that, my ex-husband, he's kind of the gift that keeps on giving, because with every new life change he has, I get to experience what that feels like. I get to experience what my children are feeling. And I literally use that in my business. So it's sort of like my life is fueling my business. They're kind of one. And, it literally just keeps fueling my strength and my ability to help others.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting that you kind of tied this all back into like, this is who I am. And it really is who you are. And you're continuing to become who you are throughout, your life and having these experiences, like you say. But one thing that I find really interesting is a lot of women that go through divorce, just like us, just like you, they come to that crossroads in their life where they look at themselves in the mirror and they ask that same exact question, like, who am I? Like, how I lost myself, or maybe I never had myself in the first place. And as I was hearing you tell your story just now, it kind of dawned on me, like, what is that for you as far as why do you think that you, quote unquote, didn't know who you were?
Yeah, I know exactly how to answer that because I've done a lot of work on myself to figure that out. So what I realized was that there was a common thread throughout my life that started way back from when I was a little girl. My sister and I are first generation born in this country, and my grandparents are Holocaust survivors. They came here with very little, and when you're immigrating into a country, you want to adopt the new customs and the new ways, right? You wanted to fit in, and part of that when I grew up was the norms of what little girls are supposed to look like and act like, and and I'm very close with my family. I love my family deeply. But at the same time, I was also put into a box of you get to look a certain way, the way we dress you, the way we want you to look outwardly, right? And then it was also, I was always the one that had different opinions than everybody else. And I was told that I needed to be quiet and just agree with everybody else, that because God forbid I spoke out, that was, a big deal. And so I learned from a very early age to keep my opinions to myself, especially if they went against what everybody else thought. And unfortunately, I brought that dynamic into my marriage. I didn't incorporate, which is something I'm still very fascinated by about myself. I didn't incorporate, but I did in my marriage. And so I realized that it was a behavior that's all I knew. So I really had to start untraining my mind to know that my voice matters, to know that my opinion matters, to know that I get to use it, but use it in a way that people will hear you. I used to think that I had to be louder. I had to be meaner to be heard, because no one ever heard me growing up, and then what it also created in my marriage was I would have these whole storytelling conversations in my head about a situation and not even verbalize them to my husband at the time. And guess what? Then I would get mad at him, and he's like, what just happened here? Because he wasn't part of the story, right? Or even if it was as simple as like, why can't you just pick up the shoes and put them in the closet? Like, I would see them and go, why can't you pick them up? Why am I always the one picking up? Why can't I pick them up? And I'd be like, why can't you pick up the shoes? Like, why are the shoes still out here, right? Instead of being like, hey, would you mind just throwing those in the closet, right? And just starting to own and take responsibility for not having a voice and creating that dynamic in my marriage. I trained him to rely on me to do everything, but yet I would get mad at him, but it was my responsibility, right? So that was kind of how I realized that it was something that I had just brought with me. And it was so subconscious. And now I'm very conscious to when like I notice my head going into that story, I'm like, whoa, no, like just get aware, pay attention. But then I get to have a constructive conversation with whoever it is instead of just internalizing it and losing myself in it. So.
Isn't that story, that story is everything, right? That, we all have our story, and that really is when you you can be saying the same thing, like you said, with the shoes. And if it's coming from your story, it comes out and it comes off in such a completely different way than when it comes from that deeper truth or that deeper awareness, even if it's the same words.
100%. And you notice that, I didn't carry it into my corporate job, but like I was playing this out in every area of my life. I would play this role with my parents. I would play this role with my sister. I would play this role with my kids. I would play this role with my, now ex-husband, like certain friends, like it translates, like there's that ripple effect. And until you make the shift inside of you, it's not going to change. And you have nobody to, it's like, instead of pointing fingers outwards, you gotta, it's on you. You gotta make the shift.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And I think that like what you're saying is throughout your life, you sort of had been intuitively disempowered to not trust, the things that you wanted to say, and to sort of like take everyone else's opinion. And so then here you are as an adult, and you've been so impacted for so long, so disempowered for so long, that the question of who am I makes a lot of sense. Like, if I can't trust my own inner voice, and I'm constantly looking outward to see how I can, act in these situations according to what's going to make everything go according to plan, or how the story needs to unfold, right? So I'm wondering, like, you said you hit that crossroads in sort of after you had received the phone calls, or he had received the phone calls in the car, and you said that was the first time you acted on your intuition. Because I really want to talk about, I think, why it is that you're such an action taker now. And it seems like that shift really happened within this whole divorce experience. Can you talk a little bit about like what actually shifted there?
Yeah, sure. I have been intuitive my whole life, and I think that's what I was trying to speak out about when I was younger, but so long ago, it's something that was so foreign back then, right? I mean, I'm in my 40s, so do the math. And a lot of times I think thoughts would come into my mind that weren't always necessarily very popular or what people wanted to hear me say. And so that night, it was one of those moments where it was like, and I still to this day, I remember everything about that moment. And it was such a physical reaction, not just the devastation of what was clearly going on, but it was that moment of like, I literally woke up. It was like smack across the face, like, it is time for you to start listening to yourself. And from that night forward, I haven't stopped listening. I never trusted myself. I never trusted my intuition. And it was all because I was told, you're wrong. Be quiet. Your opinion is wrong. You're too bold. You're too this. And I had to learn how to kind of hone in on what the intuition was bringing up. I had to hone in on, the power that I know that I have within me to create anything that I want. And I know that now. I then used that throughout my divorce process. I mean, my lawyer half the time was like, how do you know this? Like, we really are going to go down this path? And I was like, we are going down this path. Like, I didn't stop. I was relentless in my divorce, right? So it was literally from that night through my entire divorce process where I was like, things were coming to me of like, I need to look into this. I need to look into that. And then it was translating into, my career. I had an amazing career, but the things that I loved about my job, like, I knew what I loved and I knew what I hated, and I knew that I was meant for more. So I also remember being at my job, which, by the way, I started a new job 1 week after I found out that my husband was making some very bad choices. So I had to start this whole new job knowing that my entire life was just gone, that I had known. And the whole time I was there, it never felt right. Nothing ever felt right. And so at my job, I was putting my heart into the pieces that I loved, like being the leader, being the mentor, and really listening to myself and knowing that that was something I wanted to do. Then came the Facebook post, right? Where it was like, I know I'm supposed to do something with this coaching thing, right? And so my intuition, like, just slowly over time, like, I started tapping into it. And as I kept seeing what was on the other side of it, it was building my confidence to continue to listen and to trust it. And the day that I knew that I was going to quit corporate America and go this way, like, I actually remember calling my ex-husband, and, well, we were still married technically at the time, but I remember calling him and I said, I'm quitting my job. I said, I can't do this anymore. And I just need you to know that I'm going out on my own, and I know I'm going to make more money doing this, but I need you to know that I need some time, and we need to take this into account as we're thinking about alimony, child support, etc. And I knew in that moment, I was like, in 2 years, I'm going to have something. Like, it's going to be something, it's going to be bigger. And I literally just kept, so what has propelled me into trusting and knowing my intuition is I literally already know that where I'm going to be, like, I know where I'm going to be. I know that my vision of being the voice of what divorce empowerment looks like, I already know that's going to happen. It's happening. So I'm acting as though it's happening. It's happened. So every step I take furthers me down the path of that vision continuing to stay real, right? And I also have learned how to pay attention to signs, how to really stay aware of what is in front of me. You know, I have sort of like my sign from the universe where I know that I'm on my path. I see the numbers, you know, 1 all the time in repetitive order, which is, you know, an angel number. I know I'm getting chills. I know that I'm constantly being guided. And it was really a matter of that night I woke up. I woke up to the signs that were clearly in front of me. And I've just allowed that to continue to push me forward, even in my business and in my work with my clients. I mean, I was talking to a client the other day, and she literally called me between sessions and she was like, I just need your intuition right now. She's like, I need 10 minutes. Like, I need your intuition. Like, what is your intuition telling you about blah, blah, blah. And we like had this 10-minute conversation, and it works for me. It's something I tap into with my clients. Because things just like, I listen to it now. Our bodies actually react, and then our minds have like, it's like a quick passing thought. It used to be really fast and I used to ignore it. And now it comes and I'm like, oh, what was that? And sometimes it'll even wake me up in the middle of the night. It'll wake me up in the middle of the night and I'll have like an idea. I was telling my boyfriend the other day, I was like, he's like, how'd you sleep? I was like, oh, my mind before I went to bed was just like, I got all these ideas. And like, I already know what I'm going to do next. Like, I'm already thinking about what's coming next because it just comes to me. And we tend to numb ourselves in divorce. We tend to numb ourselves because the fear is so powerful. And I've gotten myself to a place where I'm like, I'm not scared. Look what I've created. Like, I can do this. And if I fail, okay, great. Then there's a lesson and it's going to point me to where I'm supposed to go next. Like, not everything I've done has been done correctly. I mean, Lord knows I paid tens of thousands of dollars on coaching programs that did nothing for me, right? Yeah, I know you guys can relate.
Absolutely.
How many of us do, right? Because we're doing things in the wrong order. And it has gotten me to where I am. So there was a reason that I had to invest in those mistakes to get to where I am today. Things don't just happen accidentally, right? People come in. It's like my ex-husband. He wasn't a mistake. He and I were meant to be together for the time that we were. And yeah, I knew stuff was going down years before, but I wasn't ready, and it's okay. I don't punish myself for not knowing. The universe was clearly trying to wake me up, but I wasn't ready to listen. Right. So you just have to start creating that awareness and wake up. Like, wake up and listen.
So you probably get this question all the time. I know I do. I'm sure Leah does as well, from clients. When women are waking up to their intuition, the question often becomes, well, how do I know which voice is which? Because you're hearing the multiple voices, and there's a lot of question around, well, how do I know if that's my intuition or if that's my intuition? So I'm curious what you answer.
Sure. I mean, for me, it goes back to which voice aligns with your values. So the inner critic doesn't align with my values. There's dissonance versus when I know that it's my best, my subconscious, my truest higher self, it resonates with my value. And it's scary. It feels scary when it's your higher self, and it feels super easy when it is your inner critic.
Totally. Because like leveling up is like the hard part. It's the like down sliding that's easy. Like, oh, this is like, that makes a lot of sense. I like that.
Yeah. Well,
and I do a ton of,
I was just going to say, and the voice of the inner critic, I think too, it is easier. But I think there's also an element with that voice of, I don't want to say negative, but the inner critic doesn't feel good. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like even when my intuition scares me, right? Even when my intuition scares me, it's a voice of love, right? It's a voice of truth and like deeper knowing. It's almost like it resonates.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And I think that, you know, I do a lot of work with the inner critic, as I'm sure you both do too, because that's the voice we've learned to love and trust. And it's the one that has been, you know, and I always say this, like, they have your best interest in mind. They're trying to protect you. They don't have it out for you. But they're just a little too comfortable. Like, you got to kind of take the blankie off and, you know, you got to distinguish between what you know to be best versus what you're used to always doing that creates discomfort for you, or, you know, is, again, like for me, it's a lot. I do a ton of values work. Because to me, when you are out of alignment, that is where the discomfort starts to come in. And, you know, I think our inner critics are really good at manipulating us to think that it is a value, but it's not. So.
Yeah, totally.
That makes sense.
I think too, like, so this actually kind of reminds me of the conversation that you and I had for your Beyond the Divorce Summit. We kind of got into the voices of that, the inner critic voice, or I like to call it the self-abuser voice, versus the self-compassion voice, which is more of that truth voice.
Yep.
And so I love the idea of really honing in and distinguishing the difference of those voices. Because I think it is, like you said, Jen, it's hard to distinguish in the beginning. And I think also values is something that I love working on with my clients as well. But we both know that before you get to that point where you finally ask yourself, what are my values? What is in alignment for me? There are some intuitive nudges that come to get you there in the first place. Like you said, you know, when you were sitting in the car with him, that intuition sort of punched you, you know, in the face. And that might have been before you had even recognized what is in alignment with me, what are my values. And so I think kind of going back to people who are just in this beginning phase and like, I guess, learning how to trust themselves and learning how to build that intuitive confidence. What would you say, like, that initial first thing that they could do is? I know you talked about like just paying attention to signs, which is like super helpful as well. But before you know that something's going to happen, like you now do, and like you now fully trust yourself and your clients count on you for, how did you finally like decide, oh, I'm awake now?
Well, so I think the first thing is there's, you know, I say that there's like a power in a pause, right? That there, you know, when this woman called, for example, in the car, right? Or when I hear my client say something, like I kind of just take a minute to take it in. And when I give myself the space to just sit and figure out what the response is instead of automatically reacting, your reaction is a limiting belief propelling you into doing whatever it is that you're used to doing. Versus if you just take a minute, you take a breath, right? Take a breath, take a pause. And when I allow myself that space, like it literally just comes into my head differently. And a lot of people just don't allow for the silence because they're afraid of it. So I encourage my clients to just take a second and just really sink it in. You know, I had a client this morning who, you know, texted me because something had come up and she like immediately went into fear. And I was like, okay, let's just take a second, like let the emotion come over you. And instead of going, oh my God, I'm so scared, just take a minute and get curious about like, okay, what is really going on here? Take a minute. And then it's almost like you can shift the conversation in your head by just taking a minute. Instead of reacting, choose a different response.
Mm-hmm.
And there's power in that pause.
And sometimes that can be your reaction. Like, I don't know how I feel right now. Right. Like that can be your reaction, right? Like, oh, you know, that doesn't sit well. I got to figure out what I'm feeling. Because a lot of times you feel like you need to say something or you need to react, or your reaction can be like, I don't know what that was, but I need a moment.
100%. And we don't allow ourselves that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was even saying this the other day to my son, you know, like something had come up with like one of his buddies and he was getting so frustrated because, you know, whatever the interaction was between the two of them. And I was like, can you just tell him you need a minute because you're triggered or you're annoyed? Just be like, hey, I'm in the middle of something. Can I just call you back? He doesn't need to know that there is, you know, you just need a minute.
Yeah.
Like I need a minute. And I've done that with my kids before where it's like, you know, even when I'm here in my office working, I like they come in and I'm just like, I need a minute. Like, and it's like talking at you.
Yeah.
And like, instead of responding, because I know I'm going to be like, you cannot come into this office. You cannot survive it. Like, and I know I'm going to like vomit, right? Because I'm frustrated. Like I always tell them, like, I need a minute to regroup. And then you have my full attention, right? Because then you can focus on like what is really needed from you, what is really going on. It's the same thing with my clients. Like, you know, when I said to her this morning, I was like, you need to just take a breath, like take a step back. And I know that you're afraid. I know that this is scary, right? Mediation is scary. You don't know what you're walking into, but like just take a minute and get curious about what is underneath the fear instead of being like, I'm scared, I'm having anxiety, you know, it's like, okay, just, yes, it's scary. And remember what it is that you want. Like respond, don't react.
Yeah.
It's the best. There's a difference between the two and we don't know it because we're on autopilot, right? Welcome to America. Like we're on automatic autopilot all the time. So of course it's hard to take a beat. We're not used to it. So
that makes me curious because part of why we were so excited to talk to you and we're so excited to have you here is your ability to act, right? Like you're so in action. And if anyone follows you already or any listeners, if you choose to follow Wendy after today, which you should, you are in for a treat because you are constantly giving. I mean, you're in my inbox every day. You're giving me value. You're offering me all these options. Like you're just available. You're there. And it's in such a genuine and like present way. Like I can feel you. I can feel your energy. I don't, you know, we all get these emails from millions of people and you can tell when it's just an email coming through, but you're there. So do you attribute your ability to have the energy to be that so consistently and for so many to taking that pause?
So it's interesting because I made a commitment when I started my business to be completely transparent. And that enables me to give every day because I'm so transparent about my emotions, my feelings. And quite candidly, like my ex-husband, I mean, we are really close now, but I also say he's the gift that keeps on giving for my content because he has really made a lot of changes in a very short period of time. And anytime it's quiet, I'm literally like, something's coming again. Like something new is going to come. And it's not that I'm like, oh God. I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, let's have it, because it's going to fuel my content. It's literally like, he is the gift that keeps on giving me content. You know, I do have a strategy, right? We all need to have a strategy in our businesses, but my strategy comes from my heart. It doesn't come from here. It's like, what is my heart telling me I get to give? And I also stay very connected with my Facebook group, which is highly engaged. And I stay connected to them so that I know what it is that they need. I literally serve my Facebook group with my content across the board. And so whatever it is that's coming up for them, it's interesting because it's almost like there's an underlying something every single week with that group, but it's manifesting in different ways. So when I'm in there and talking to them, I'm listening. Again, it's my subconscious, it's my intuition, and there's always a commonality across the board. And so I hear what that commonality is, and then I speak to it in the different ways that it's coming up for people. So I literally am serving what I'm being told the need is. And I have stuff that comes up for me. I mean, I've done things where, you know, I feel driven by, like, and I don't mean for this to sound hokey, but like, I really do get hits of like what I'm supposed to be doing next. Like this next summit that I'm doing, I wasn't going to do until the end of the summer. I just did one in February and it was wildly successful. I mean, beyond my dream. But then I was like, COVID hit. And I was like, oh God, everyone feels so stuck. I got to get in there and do something again for these people. And to me, it's not work. It's literally, I am in service of this community. That is how I act. That is what I do. I don't know how else to describe it, but like, I literally listen to what is coming at me and I go do it. And I think part of it is that I figure it out along the way. I don't sit here and have a plan. I just literally am like in it. I'm like, I'm doing another summit. I'm going to figure this out, but I'm going to do it because I know that this is what people need right now. And it just, the reward that I get just helping one person, I'm like, yes. If I help two people, yes. Like, I literally want to change the world. I really do. And I know that also, you know, Leah, you're doing amazing things. Jen, you're doing amazing things. But when we all come together, it's louder, it's more powerful. People feel more supported. I mean, I've had some of the most incredible conversations. This community of divorce professionals, or, you know, people who help those on the emotional side going through divorce, like, we need to be heard. People need us. People are struggling and they don't deserve to struggle. Mm-hmm. So all of the work that I do literally comes from my heart. It doesn't feel hard. It doesn't feel hard to me. And, you know, and listen, I also have a marketing background. I love to write. And so writing emails is very easy for me. I mean, my boyfriend makes comments to me. He's like, how do you do this? Like, I'm like, I don't know. I just like, it just comes to me and I just write it. I don't even question it. I just type it. You know, and even like last night I did a dance party in my Facebook group. I'm like, we're just going to dance. And we literally danced for 40 minutes. It was like a cardio workout. I wasn't planning on it, but like, we just had an impromptu, like, happy hour with dancing on Zoom. Cause that's what I needed. I was like, I don't want to talk to any more people today. I just want to dance. So that's what we did. Like, I literally just act what I need or what I know my clients need. And that's how I serve them. And I don't know how, you know, I don't know how else to do it.
That is so, I've never, you know, you hear it said all the time, you know, find what you love and it'll never feel like work. But I've never actually heard someone say it quite like you and just exude it in the way that you
Thank
are.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you can feel the passion and integrity behind everything that you're saying. And I think too, it is really important to connect and to have that community where you're constantly drawing from everything around you, within you, and then just allowing yourself to express. I think that that's flow to me. And when you're in that state, that's when magic really happens. So this Beyond Divorce Summit that's coming out soon, which I would like for you to actually talk about.
Yeah.
I feel like you're kind of tapping in like a web to all of these different voices and just allowing that to flow out through this summit. So can you talk about what people can expect when that's coming out?
Yeah, absolutely. So the next summit launches June 9th, but registration starts May 26th, which is, ironically, it's my son's birthday. And, my goal with this next summit, so after my first one, it was all about divorce recovery and really focused on building confidence and creating the life that you want. And it was a little bit more niched. And then what I did was I actually did a survey of everybody who participated in the summit, asking them like, what were the holes that I missed that they want filled? Like, what are some of their pain points? And so I gathered all of that information and then created this next one. And given the world that we're in with the pandemic, the common themes across the board had to do with the fact that a lot of people feel stuck because courts are closed. You know, yes, you can do mediation, but not a lot of paperwork can get filed. You know, they financially, they don't know what to do because now that the courts are closed, like money can be used against them. And so I decided to create this next summit around sort of letting people see that just because the courts are closed doesn't mean that you get to feel stuck, that there's an entire other emotional side that you get to move forward with. There's also the side of your children. Kids are impacted by this too. So I have experts coming on to talk about how right now you can also help your kids cope with divorce. It is a trauma. We are also experiencing a pandemic that is creating trauma. So it is one and the same. So you can use these tools that my experts are going to share in how to support your kids. And then also financially, right? You can start getting your ducks in a row. You can start setting things up for when the courts do reopen. You can start educating yourself. You don't have to feel stuck. And I was getting really frustrated because I'm like, no, you don't. Like, just because the courts are closed doesn't mean you get to be stuck. You don't have to stay stuck. And so this particular summit is really around, you don't get to feel stuck. You get to move through these other places. And so it's called Beyond Divorce, right? And it's about discovering the secrets to start disconnecting, setting your boundaries, and moving forward. You get to still move forward. It doesn't matter that the courts are closed. And guess what? When they open back up, they're going to be really backed up. So it's going to take a little bit longer than you even think it's going to take. So you get to start doing the work, because when you do the emotional work, the business side gets easier. It gets faster. You are in a more rational place to start making better decisions for your future. And I have many experts, including the two of you who, please feel free to share what our topics were that you guys talked about, but I have people coming in to talk about all those different aspects, and experts who are mediators, who are lawyers, who are entrepreneurs, who are authors, who are bloggers, who are, I can't even begin to tell you the list of people. I have, including myself, I'm interviewing myself for the first time for this summit, which I'm really excited about. And Jen Hurwitz is actually going to be the one to interview me. And I have 33 experts participating in this summit. The videos are going to be released every single day. Every single expert is giving a free gift, and they are off the charts amazing. Everybody needs to get a hold of them. And it's meant to give. It's meant to give you the support you need. It's meant to give you the courage that you need to take one step forward. You don't have to take 10, just one. My goal is from at least one interview that you get something that moves you forward. But after having the interviews that I've had already, and I have a handful more to go, there is literally multiple nuggets in every single interview that people are going to be able to take and move themselves forward. This summit is going to change people's lives. It will, more so than the first one did. And I'm like, I wanted to launch next week. I'm like, why did I wait
so
this
excited?
long? But then I was like, oh yeah, I have to actually build it and make it,
yeah.
I have to make sure that, the technology works for it. So,
Where can people register?
So they will be able to register. I don't have the site. It's not up and running yet, but people will be able to register. They can go to my website, to be honest, is probably the best place because there's going to be a link right there that I can share now. So my website is Wendy Sterling, WendySterling.net. And, obviously both of you guys are going to be driving people into, so you can also, keep an eye out from both Jen and Leah on, their emails and their social media of how it is that you guys can register. But you have to register in order to get the emails every day where the videos will be found.
Amazing. I know the first one was amazing. So I am really looking forward to seeing what you put together this time.
I know. And I'm so grateful for you participating for the second time. I mean, you were I think my second interview. I was like, Jen's got to be in this. And then she introduced me to Leah, and I just fell in love with you as well. And, you both have so much knowledge and wisdom, and the work that you both are doing is so crucial to this space. And again, it's meant to be a platform for us to come together and to spread the word and to show people what's possible. We've all built these incredible lives. We are great examples to those that love us and who we love of what's possible.
Yeah.
We limit ourselves. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. I think there's like this little thread that's kind of come forward as we've spoken today. And there are so many of us doing very similar things, but there's room for everyone, because when you find what's unique and true and aligned within your voice, the way you were saying, Wendy, like you have been transparent, you have your unique vision, your unique perspective, your unique experience. So that becomes a very specific lane within something that is pretty broad. I think that's really what I'm pulling from here, is like wherever anyone is being intuitively led, let whatever is unique to you, whatever that is, whatever voice or vision or, kind of future that you kind of feel rising within you, let that come alive and pull you in that direction. Because I think that's what really clearly stands out, is you are just so just honed in on exactly what your message is and where it's coming from.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think that, I don't ever believe that there's competition for anybody, because nobody is you. And, what I also firmly believe, and I do this all the time, is, I refer people, if I'm not the right fit, or I think that they can be better served by somebody else, if I see that they're at a different place, it's important for us to connect, because, I want to be able to send people to somebody that I know, that I trust, and that who knows that they can help others. And I agree with you. I think we are all gifted in very different ways. And unless we share that gift with the world, nobody's going to know that you can help them. So it's really important that you get clarity around that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Wendy. Every time you said you have goosebumps, I was like, me too. So many goosebumps this episode. Thank you for seeing yourself so clearly so that you can see the world around you more clearly, and so that we, you know, can all see ourselves more clearly too. I think you're just this amazing, you know, source of clarity, really is what I feel. It's like a breath of fresh air each time we talk. I'm honored to have had you today, and I'm really, really, really excited to see what the summit contains and how many people really can be touched by it. So thank you so much for being here today.
Of course. Oh my God. That would be like, woof, make me a little teary-eyed, but thank you. I'm so appreciative for the two of you. And thank you so much for having me join you guys today on the podcast. I'm so grateful to call you guys friends. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and all of the links that we talked about today, and they're all going to be in the show notes. So if any of you would like to register, that will be up, and Jen and I will also have that available on our own personal social media as well. So that'll be easy for anyone listening to plug into. Until next time, Deep Chatters, thank you so much for listening. Don't be afraid to pause, to listen, to respond and not react, and to just feel like you don't have to be stuck. I think that's the big message here, is permission to not be stuck even in a pandemic. So love to you all. Until next time.
To all you deep chatters out there, Leah and I want to thank you so much for listening. This is a podcast that's all about connection, so we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on Instagram at Deep Chats Podcast. And if you haven't already, please go to iTunes to rate and review us. Every review helps other deep chatters just like you be able to find this podcast.